Toronto Maple Leafs have made a sneaky good signing as they are making moves. We'll break down exactly who that player is and discuss what it means going forward. This could have big implications for the future. We'll break that down as well as discuss the Leafs being forced into an impossible decision surrounding their two goaltenders following another stellar performance from Joseph Woll. Stay tuned for all that in this episode, but before we get into it, if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Leafs content. If you're a part of the 71% who aren't subscribed, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and thank you guys again for your continued support. We will be live following tonight's game against the Rangers. The Leafs hopefully can win their third straight, but Darius, a lot to go over today, and some surprising news drop from Elliot Freeman revealing a new signing for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and it's not one that many fans or any fans expected necessarily, but this player is it's very interesting and is definitely a part of their future plans with this team and the makeup of the team. So let's go right here. About 30 minutes ago, it's been made official. The Leafs assigned defenseman John Prokop to a one-year contract beginning in the 2025-2026 season. He will join the Marlies for the remainder of the 2024-2025 season on an amateur tryout. So this one is a little bit interesting, and they're always looking to, and we had a video on it, I think about a month or two ago, always looking to sign young players, prospects, all these different things, and they made one official today, just a month out from the playoffs. And if you're unfamiliar with this player, he's very interesting. He was in the Vegas development camp last summer, is 24 in May, has 27 points in 36 games, which is pretty solid as a defenseman. He's a free agent defenseman from the NCAA Union College, and we have some more stuff to break down for him. But Darius, what are your initial thoughts on this move and the Leafs going out and acquiring some, I was going to say depth, but hopefully a piece of their future going forward in the next handful of seasons?
Yeah, you see a lot of these moves at this point in the year sometimes where these, college and university seasons wrap up or other seasons wrap up, and then guys become free agents or can be signed to NHL teams, and then NHL teams are kind of, going through, who's available right now and trying to sign their guys to see what they have in certain players like this. So the Leafs certainly see something in John, and I mean, it's going to be an interesting move because he's going to go to the Marlies on an amateur tryout right now, but obviously he's been signed, so he's probably going to stick with the Marlies next season. Maybe he gets some time in the ECHL too, right? Like we don't know exactly what the plan is at this point in time, but obviously they see something in him. They want to, work with him, develop him down there with the Marlies, and it's going to be interesting to see how he pans out. He's a pretty big defenseman. Like he's not the biggest guy, but he's another big defenseman, and we know that Brad Treliving likes that, and that's kind of the way that the Leafs are going. It's very different from the last regime, so kind of fits the mold in that way. I like the signing because obviously low risk, right? Just have him in the Marlies, continue his development and to develop with this organization, and I think that he could end up being a pretty decent defenseman at some point. Like if you look at Marshall Rafai, for example, right? He's kind of like a borderline, teetering on the NHL defenseman right now. So, as he continues his development too, maybe he sees more time with the Leafs as the years go on. So I obviously low risk signing. I think it's good. Another big body on the blue line. It fits what the team is trying to do. So again, I like the signing.
And for the Leafs, obviously they are now at a point where the defense core over the next 2 to 3 years is kind of locked in as it pertains to the veteran guys and even some of the non-veterans, but especially, Morgan Rielly, Jake McCabe, Chris Tanev, and OEL, the two guys that they've signed, they're all going to be under contract for the next handful of seasons. So they're also looking into the future now with, hopefully, John Prokop. You can see this here. This is a fantastic signing for the Leafs. Prokop is a heavy-bodied, shutdown defender who excelled at pushing the puck up the ice this year. He was the main pillar of a good Union squad. I have little doubt he'll play NHL games in due time. And shout out to NHL Foley, because obviously not all of us are privy to watching a lot of these college games and keeping up to date with all the players. And I mean, I'm sure not a lot of Leafs fans. However, if you were, let us know down below if you knew about John Prokop and his game prior to the Leafs signing. We obviously did some research on him, but looking at some of his advanced analytics, like stuff looks like it's going to translate fairly well to the NHL. Now, whether this is going to be, it won't be this year, obviously, maybe next season, the year beyond that, whenever it is, having a guy who's young in his mid 20s, early 20s, 24, and then hopefully will be a part of this team once either as a replacement. If we've seen this year, even Philip Meyer, someone we didn't think was going to get into a lot of games, got into some games. They obviously made the trade. They got Matt Benning. Like they had a bunch of different defensemen. Now, hopefully, they're going to add someone who can help complement this core, whether or not, OEL, Chris Tanev beyond their time, or even if next season, for some reason, someone's not playing well. I know a lot of fans out there are getting fed up with Morgan Rielly, though I think he stays in the team. Having depth, specifically in the defenseman group, is going to be key here. He's 6'2", I believe, or 6'3", I believe it is. Whatever it is, he's a big body, and he puts up some points down there in the NCAA.
Yeah, he is putting up points, and he's also a pretty good defensive defenseman by all accounts. Everyone's been, obviously with the scouting reports the last couple of minutes before we were recording this. So it looks pretty promising. It looks like a lot of what he brings to the table can translate to the NHL. And I think, like you mentioned, it's an investment at this point. You know what your defense core looks like for the next handful of seasons, 3 seasons, 4 seasons. What happens after that? The Leafs are making some investments with players like this because with some help, again, it looks like this guy's skills can and what he brings to the table can translate to the NHL level. So they're not going to rush him or anything. I think it's perfect. I think you bring this guy in and maybe in like 3 years, 4 years, maybe he's playing regularly in your NHL lineup.
Yeah, now you can see here again, 6'3", 27 points. He has a bit of offensive game, of course, in the NCAA, sorry, so you're going to have to translate that. But let us know down below what your thoughts are if you are familiar with him. And of course, a lot of the NCAA free agents now are going to be signed. So it's good to see the Leafs get someone that seems pretty highly touted, especially from other people who, of course, pay attention to that a lot more than other fans may as well. So the Leafs doing some good signing here, some good work, and a very interesting signing that hopefully will pay big dividends going forward. And one final little tidbit on him, just to give you guys some more background information. He did get some free agency buzz last year, and NHL scouts were definitely interested then, and they're, of course, interested now, and the Leafs have confirmed sign him. Smooth skating, 6'3". Size numbers decline a bit, but that will hardly be a deterrent. And this article was dropped, of course, before the Leafs signed him, just showing that a lot of teams were interested in him. And the last sentence there, the skating ability and size, he was going to be on the NHL radar, but his game makes him an especially attractive option in a year with so few obvious undrafted defensemen worth signing. So great work by the Leafs, and by all accounts, something it's going to be a sneaky move going forward, and one we might look back on in a couple of years and saying, wow, they got him for nothing, and they were one of the teams who were able to get him. But speaking of a couple of other things here now, and Joseph Woll, obviously coming off a fantastic game yesterday. Anthony Stolarz gets the nod tonight against, when they're playing tonight against the Rangers. I don't think there's been enough praise for Joseph Woll. The kid is an absolute stud, and his $3.6 million cap hit doesn't kick in until next year. Wow. And I wanted to bring this up, and of course, we spoke about it on the stream. Obviously, a big game tonight against the Rangers, a big game yesterday. The question now is, and we asked it to the stream yesterday, I still think Anthony Stolarz is the 1A goalie, but the Leafs are going to be forced into a pretty not rough, but it's a good decision to have, and tough, obviously. It's going to be an interesting one for Craig Berube in the front office. Who's going to be starting in the playoffs, and who is now their 1A goalie with how good Joseph Woll has been, and Stolarz falling off a little bit over the past 5 games. By falling off, I mean struggling compared to his really good self.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to keep an eye on now. And like we mentioned in the stream yesterday, this is going to become a thing now. After last night's performance, I know it's one game. It's going to become a storyline at this point. How does Stolarz play tonight? He's struggled the last little while, especially compared to what he brought to the table earlier this season. And there's some things to consider. When Joseph Woll faces more than 30 shots in a game, he is borderline an elite goaltender in the league. And when he's playing tougher competition, same thing. He's just a better goalie when he's playing a better team. So what we saw last night, I think, is closer to what Joseph Woll actually is and what we've seen, especially in the playoffs when he was called upon last year and in years previous too. It's closer to what he actually is. So now it makes things interesting because Stolarz, who looked like he was the bona fide starter going into the first round of the playoffs, is struggling at this point in time right now. So what does he do tonight? He barely has any playoff experience too. Let's keep that in mind. If he doesn't, find his game here, he barely has any playoff experience. I wouldn't be surprised to see Joseph Woll somehow, after everything that's happened this season, be the game one starter for the Leafs in the playoffs, because he does actually have more playoff experience than Anthony Stolarz as well. So something to keep in mind. And it's going to get very, very interesting down the stretch here, because now both goalies are definitely fighting for that position. Because after last night, again, I know it's one game. That's back-to-back good games for Woll. You had Stolarz is struggling a little bit down the stretch here. Who's going to take over? Who's going to say, this is my net and this is the time to do it? Because there's only a couple weeks left in the season.
Yeah, and it all starts tonight with Anthony Stolarz. Hopefully he'll be able to keep up to what Joseph Woll is doing. Maybe Joseph Woll now set a standard for Anthony Stolarz to follow in a very crucial game tonight, as the Leafs are now tied for first in the Atlantic. Hopefully they can take care of business. Let us know down below what your thoughts are on that. We will be live following the game. Also, let us know what your thoughts are on, of course, new signing the Leafs have made. Thank you guys for watching. See you later.